Good afternoon. My name is Anita Arnold, and I'm with Blackberry Art Center. We do arts integration. We brought the Kennedy Center to Oklahoma. And I didn't hear Mr. New talk about the standard he's going to use. I heard two of the superintendents say that they were going to align with ACT Aspire. Could you share a little bit of that?
As Monique mentioned in my intro, we did a lot of work with the SAT, PSAT. We had a suite of assessments that we implemented during the school day in Washington, the only district in the country to do so. And so what we were able to do is we increased our academic, our enrollment in most academic rigorous classes, AP and IB, by about 200%. Especially significant was the Hispanic population and the African American population growth in those programs. Coming to Oklahoma and with the Common Core, which is only reading and math anyway, with the Common Core being taken out, we're going to go to the legislature with a waiver because we really don't care what the standards are. We're going to set our own. We're going to take the past, go on steroids, design the curriculum from basically what we expect from our graduates in AP and IB, and backward design our curriculum.
Okay, I was listening to y'all talk, and I've been in Oklahoma a whole lot. And like you and that, and I have 6 granddaughters and a grandson. But I've heard this time and time again, year after year, our teachers underpaid. And I agree. What do we need to do as Oklahomans to get that pay up to them teachers, keep them teachers and the principals here?
I think first and foremost, we have to take our data to the legislature so they have accurate data. But on top of that, I think it takes the voice of parents and grandparents and those voices saying we need to do that for teachers. It's one thing for me to go as a superintendent. We have those conversations, but that support from all of you to look at what is around us and look at the surrounding area and to say that we need to be competitive with that surrounding area, I think is very important.
Well, I'd just like, this is a great question, and our friend Representative Nelson always asks me, how much is enough? Well, let me just give you, I was looking at our pay schedule today. We just finished negotiations and settled that. But I was looking at our pay scale, what a beginning teacher makes 4 years out of college, or first year out of college with a 4-year degree. Beginning pay for a teacher is $34,000 in our district with some benefits, retirement, and that sort of thing. We can all probably agree that's not bad, $34,000 for a young person of 22 years of age entering into the workforce. However, after 20 years of teaching in Oklahoma, that pay would be about $43,000, about a $300, $400 raise, step raise per year. And that's where we seem to start losing teachers at that 10-year, 11-year, 12-year mark. They have young families, they want to have more income to provide for their needs. $32,000 on the front end after 20 years, $43,000 around that. So you can see that that's some situations there that we constantly have to have discussion about. Good question. Dr. Rhodes, you want to say anything about that?
Well, I think when we have visited with legislators as a state, we need to find a funding source. And I think there was some talk within the last year about looking at the oil industry. Of course, we know there are lobbyists that are involved in that at the same time, but I think some of that is improving, that as far as the type of drilling and the taxes that we have on drilling. But we are, fortunately, an oil-rich state, and I do believe that's part of the reason that we have continually have people coming into our state, as well as thunder and some other reasons to live in this area. But we need to find the funding source, and I think that's important for us to do and to get behind.
Have any questions over here? Questions?
Okay, I'm a citizen of Central Oklahoma, and you all are leaders in the schools of Oklahoma. How do we go about making schools safe for our children? I mean, to me, that's the number one. If I'm a parent dropping a child off at school, I shouldn't be worried about if they're going to come home.
I can tell you, and I don't know, of course, being safe has a lot of components to it, and most of our schools today, we mentioned with our bond, we will have safe rooms as far as tornadoes. We don't like our schools to be like prisons, but honestly, We've gone to great lengths to require a lot of, to happen before a person is actually in our buildings. There are cameras where that you are buzzed into the building. Mr. Lund could probably talk about how the office and the area, Will Rogers was just within the last year, where that there's a waiting area before you can even get into the office. There are several things happening that way, cameras, but there may be something specifically that you're...
Well, I was thinking both about the violence and the tornado situation.
Well, and I would just say both of those kind of come back into those funding issues. They come back into your building funds. And we have, right now, we currently have the most safe rooms, but we don't have safe rooms in every school. And so having that ability to finish that out and bond that, you notice we're already bonded very high in Deer Creek. So that presents a real challenge because I've got to provide enough classrooms for the growth of the 300, but I also need to come back and provide some of the safe rooms that you're talking about and the cameras. And we have some of those same entry and policy, and the board meets regularly on policy as far as people entering and exiting. And it does create a little bit of a difficulty in that, especially in our school system, we have a lot of parent volunteers trying to put enough safety things in, but also trying to make it welcoming to all the parents that are wanting to come in and help. So we do find some of those things a little bit challenging, but we all take it very seriously. We also did a Safe Schools grant, or a grant with officers, police officers. So we have a lot of officers also moving about since we're out in the country and really pretty isolated.
Thank you. We have 25 gymnasiums.
You have to just hold it like ice cream cone.
Was I doing it before? So I just talking louder. We have 25 gymnasiums coming online here to be built in the next couple of years, and we've actually delayed the building of those to make them safe rooms. It's about a $12.7 million additional item, but we'll have 25 more safe rooms on top of the 5 that we already have in Oklahoma City. The violence piece outside of tornadoes or natural disasters, you look at the bullying aspects and things that lead to events like Columbine. And I think that goes back to the caring adult thing I was talking about earlier, knowing the kids and really building that relationship with kids so that when they spot something going on, they come to us and say, hey, something's not right with so-and-so. Or the adults are able to flag that. I think that that's just the prevention thing that we have to do. I think we've done a great job over the last decade in education in America of the anti-bullying stuff, of the anti-bullying work. Our kids are much more kinder and tolerant than we were. I guarantee you that. So I think that that's a second piece. And then we've also worked really hard, and our city has come up and ended up on a 50-50 split to put 8 new school resource officers in our elementary schools on top of our secondary schools. So I believe in having police and trained guns near your campuses, if not on, but I don't believe in having teachers and others with guns on our campuses. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So I think it really comes back to some preventive measures in how we're interacting with our kids, and then of course the exterior facilities and some of the things. I agree with you. I don't like that feeling that they're prisons and we have to go through some metal detectors at times, but at the same time, I don't want to be sitting with parents who've lost a child because of a Newtown type of incident where somebody comes in from outside the school and decides to do something horrible.
Well, I ditto all what my colleagues say. 25 years ago, that probably wasn't a question in front of our mind. Today it is, both natural, what we saw in Moore last couple years ago, and what we're talking about in Newtown and Columbine. Regarding the violence piece, the information that we receive is when intruders do see an armed gunman, that it does pretty much put an end to that escapade of what's happening, either by a suicide or by a shootout or something like that. So it is a dangerous, we worry about that daily. It is at the front of our mind. We like to put armed officers in our buildings when we can. The challenge is the funding issue. We do have 4 safe rooms in our buildings that we just have built over the last 10 to 15 years, so we try to address that area. But you are correct. It is a question that we deal with on a daily basis. Ranet?
I'd like to add one other thing that Deer Creek is, I think, a lead and a model for that others may want to look at. But we have a health and wellness program, a partnership with OU, that brings a tremendous amount of counselors. We have some very highly qualified counseling pieces in place in Deer Creek, and we really feel like we needed that because we had a few incidents of concern, whether it be suicide or some of the other things. And so that's allowed us. But hunting those partnerships that you can do with some universities to bring that in. And with funding cuts over the years, that has been a program that we, even though our part in that is not real expensive, we've really had to tighten up and set aside to keep it going. But it is a very critical part, and I think a very important part to Deer Creek.
Curious if your schools receive funding, educational funding from the casino revenues? And if so, how is that being used? I don't hear anything about it in the media. You know, it's such a big deal.
I'm new here, I don't know.
Yeah, keep spending your money, will you? Well, a few years ago in Governor Henry's term, we did pass the lottery, and that is folded into the formula as we receive formula dollars. It is not earmarked specifically stating Bethany Public Schools, you receive X amount of dollars from the lottery. It's not labeled that way. It's just in the funding formula. So, to be honest with you, and I think this has been a question that the legislature has looked at and tried to address, and maybe they can give us a line item of how much comes to our district regarding lottery dollars, but it was in place about 7 or 8 years ago. Is that right, Representative? Close to that? And we still don't know how much we receive. Now, the Lottery Commission can say we have funded schools and placed into the funding formula or the Common Education Fund X amount of dollars. But let's remember that it also earmarked funds toward the teacher retirement system, earmarked funds toward the university higher ed system. So Common Ed did not receive all of those funds. We were the major player in that, but we're probably guessing to some degree as much as you are on that. Do you have any answers on that, Ranet or Fred?
No, I just know that our funding would be less without it, so we're grateful to have what we have.
Good question, and we received that a lot.
Well, I do have one response on that. I was at a Lincoln Luncheon quite a few months ago, and that question did come up about casinos. They were supposed to be, or the lottery was supposed to be raising funds for schools, not so much the casinos, but the lottery.
Right.
And come to find out that one of the legislators told us that just 35 cents of every dollar goes to the schools out of law.
That could be true. Like again, we don't know what that is. The Lottery Commission can give what their receipts are, what their deposits are. And Representative Nelson can probably answer that better than I can. But we don't know how much is coming toward Bethany Schools, Deer Creek, or Putnam City.
And to me, I thought maybe 35 cents was too little. I thought we should have got more than that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get in trouble for opening my mouth, and this will be one of those times. But I am not an advocate of gambling, partly because, if people do that, that's fine. I know that I would be a compulsive gambler if I ever gambled, because I would be angry that I lost money, and I'd keep gambling to try to get back. And it does bother me that we live in a state where we're using that as a reason for people to go gamble, to say it's going to go for education. And when the issue very first came up, I had the idea that if we really think it's okay to do this and we really want people to gamble to help the schools, let's just put the gaming in our schools. So I could go, I want Will Rogers to do well financially. I'm going to go play there. And then you cut out all of that percentage of the overhead. But anyway, again, it's one of those times that I probably say something else.
I'd sort of like to make a comment, a positive comment, because I like this to really end positively. You know, sort of posing as a question, but I'm also speaking to everybody here. You've heard of our woes about spending money. And I like the way Ranet says, I guess we've trained her well. You pick the figures. Don't let me tell them to. Where are we as a state in funding our schools? And we're somewhere near the bottom. I think we can agree with that. The other day, on the internet, I saw a ranking of school systems throughout the United States. Anybody else see that? AOL? The school systems that is near the bottom in spending is 36th in performance. And my question and my thought to this group is, why is that not a success story? Why is that not a success story, and why do we keep beating people up in the state? And that would be the argument that the incremental money might give us lots better. Sorry for preaching. By the way, how much do we spend on incarceration for one individual? Paper said yesterday over 18 grand. How much do we spend on educating one kid?
In Deer Creek, $4,108.
Sorry.
I have one quick question, and I don't know, do you, any of you have any programs where businesses are working directly with your schools in a way that is something that our other businesses should know about and inspire us to get involved?
We have about 65 businesses in our schools right now. And in fact, we're just in the process of hiring a partnership or an outreach coordinator that's going to really start working specifically on targeting not only what our needs are in the schools, but what the needs are in the community, so that the partnership can be two-way. And you know, probably the most successful one that comes off the top of my head is the Devon Energy has adopted Mark Twain Elementary. They're celebrating their 10th year of partnership now, and you go into Mark Twain, and it's just a beautiful building, beautiful grounds, and the mentorship activities that are going on there just are heartwarming. And so that's been a real successful partnership. But you're going to see us in Oklahoma City really ramp up those partnership connections and outreach.
Well, I think we work with First National Bank to do our financial literacy and provide opportunities with that. We're always looking for ways in which our foundation can secure not only funding, but also mentors and teachers, and we do have people from the community that do come in and help with reading after school or during the school and giving extracurricular activities to our students. So we are always open to business involvement and to being able to use that of tutors and things of that nature.
Well, and I would say in Deer Creek, if you've driven much of Deer Creek, we have a few Sonics and a few things. So we don't have a lot of business and industry, but we do have massively active parents who are out in business and industry, and they come back in and bring a lot into us. But in particular, Integris has worked with us to mentor a lot of our young people in the areas of medicine. And so that would be one of our bigger partnerships that's really taking a big influence on young people, and they get to go out and observe some things, and Integris brings programs into them.
In Putnam City, we have a lot of different programs, but the one that I want to mention specifically is Junior Achievement. And if any of you are interested at all in that, please talk to me afterwards. Through Junior Achievement, we have people from the business community who come into our schools, starting in elementary school, middle school, and high school, and helping teach financial literacy classes. It's one of the things that we know is very critical. We have, I think, one of the highest when you look at the percentage of young people in their 20s and 30s filing for bankruptcy. We obviously have not done a very good job as a country educating our young people about good business practices and personal finance.